the sneaky surcharge scam that restaurants have relied on to balance the bottom line. This brings us to the psychological friction point occurring at the conclusion of the guest experience, the aggressive deployment of non-transparent, ancillary fees at the point of sale. Rather than adjusting base menu prices transparently to reflect macroeconomic realities, corporate operators have adopted a fragmented pricing strategy. They maintain artificially suppressed base prices to drive customer acquisition, then externalize standard operating overhead directly onto the guest check through an opaque array of line item additions. Supply chain surcharge. Corporations frequently justify the imposition of a supply chain surcharge by citing localized volatility in agricultural procurement and unpredictable disruptions across global distribution networks. This narrative frames the fee as an unavoidable reaction to external, systemic challenges in sourcing raw materials. In terms of actual operational function, however, this surcharge serves to offload fundamental logistical risks directly onto the consumer. By converting variable wholesale market spikes into an immediate customer expense, the enterprise successfully insulates its own profit margins from the inherent risks of global commerce. Healthcare mandate fee. When introducing a healthcare mandate fee, corporate communications typically emphasize the necessity of maintaining compliance with statutory employee benefit regulations and local healthcare mandates. This positions the company as a responsible employer, navigating complex legal requirements. The actual operational function reveals a strategy of externalizing internal human resource and regulatory compliance costs. Instead of absorbing these statutory requirements as a standard cost of labor, the organization converts basic employee overhead into a distinct, separate consumer tariff listed at the bottom of the receipt. Inflation adjustments. The corporate justification for inflation adjustments relies on the premise that such measures are an unavoidable response to general macroeconomic currency depreciation and escalating wholesale costs. It presents the fee as a reluctant but necessary adjustment to broader economic realities. Operationally, this mechanism functions as an artificial preservation of corporate margins. It allows a business to raise revenue dynamically while avoiding both the capital expenditure and the perceived brand risk associated with printing updated, streamlined menu materials or permanently altering baseline pricing structures. Credit card processing fees. Proponents of credit card processing fees argue that these line items are necessitated by rising interchange tariffs levied by major financial institutions and payment processors. This positions the business as an intermediary merely passing along an inescapable third-party penalty. In practice, the actual operational function of this fee is the total shifting of transactional processing costs to the end user. Rather than absorbing merchant fees as a standard cost of doing business in a modern economy, the corporation treats the acceptance of digital tender as a premium service funded entirely by the consumer. This methodology introduces significant psychological friction, leaving consumers with a profound sense of manipulation. A transaction that appeared economically viable based on menu architecture transforms into an inflated final liability upon receipt generation. In an economic climate where discretionary spending on food away from home is increasingly scrutinized, these deceptive pricing strategies severely fracture consumer trust. Diners are shifting their patronage away from legacy chains in favor of independent operators and progressive concepts that practice radical fiscal transparency.